Okay, a new turn, a new video. Russia got the orders command. They switched over to the guards. I feel like I kind of have to do something with them to get them back into play, pulling them out of the battles, etc. They're just it's either that or lose them. Now, that means I'm not going to be able to continue over here as well as I was. For the French, they won the initiative. They switched, adding the artillery instead of... they would have probably gone with Poniatowski this time, I guess. I'm sorry, it was Junot. Poniatowski's pretty worn out. But he's within range of Napoleon, so I figure I'll take my chances. It's not a lot of units that I can add to this fight using him. I wish I had a combined command. I'd put him in with Davout or something. But the artillery is not going to add a lot either. Anyway, I started off with the Cav, but didn't do much with them. Some regrouping here. That doesn't look healthy, but that's life. And then over here beginning to swing around. You know what we're not seeing in this scenario, which we saw in the other game, and it may have something to do with the withdrawal boxes, etc., is those go-like formations that had to form to allow for retreats. They're not as important in this. In some ways I kind of don't like that, except that, you know, go-like formations are not what units operated on the field with in general, at this scale at least. But it is nice to see that, hey, I've got to make room for my retreats, in a certain aspect, that you don't want little clumps trying to fight things off. However, the retreats became just too deadly, and I don't know. Here you're seeing people running units off to go do little tasks where they're kind of at risk of getting cut off and everything. It's like, who cares? It'll just go into the withdrawn box, and you know, it'll either recover or not. But that's all it's going to go into if it gets hammered normally anyway. So you're not having to provide those stable platforms to retreat from, and that'll kind of give you some cover when you retreat. String of actions, not much happened except in the first two, where the Imperial Guard came charging over and took out Ostman Tolstoy. This was excuse me, that's wrecking that unit basically. In fact, I think it's off the board at this point, so it won't be coming back. And getting into position to try to retake this. So the Russians are in a really, really weak place right now. I'd hoped that something would hold here, and it's not. Chasing these Cav down isn't really doing me much good, but I've got to dispatch somebody to defend this while I try to, you know, build up a line at Borodino or something to slow the Guard down or stop them. Otherwise, an artillery barrage by the French, no biggie. Ney, Eugene pulling back a little bit. And then Poniatowski chased off some Cav and did some recovery. As you know, got a double activation, kind of pushed forward, chasing some Cossacks out of the way, got rid of some, not a big deal, but mainly just kind of isolating this unit. And then the reserve got an activation, and I forgot to fire off my artillery. I should be blasting some of these. We'll do that in a moment. But it was a little too late. The units I wanted to withdraw are gone. I may be wrecked already with how many there are in there. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in here. I think I got more than that out. 1, 2. Yeah, I got enough out still, but if we take more losses like here, and Davout has yet to go, we got a problem. I also did a Cav charge. Oh, there's another one under here. I did a Cav charge, or a couple of them. This one chased off the light Cav, which survived its morale check. This one bounced off this light Cav here with artillery support. The light Cav countercharged them, canceled out their advantage, and was able to repulse them. And I think I'm done for the morning at least. Gotta see if I can get this damn thing to charge. Okay, let's see. Another reserve activity. And the Russian guards, grenadiers, whatever, busted their way through and really hurt Davu's command a great deal. Now he's not quite in danger of falling, I don't think. He's, oh man, yeah, maybe he is. He's got a lot of units that are dead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12. Looks like I only have 3 there. Yeah, that's, I think he just wrecked Davu. And that's going to be big because Davu was my large force. I still have the powerful force of the guard, but knocking Davu out of the battle is going to largely cut the French offensive capability. They'll probably pull them back to defend the redoubt or something, but phew. And let's see. Bagration went, he's got really nothing. Some recovery actions on this command. It's kind of scattered in a couple of places. Then Murat's Cav struck, and okay, the French still have one powerful combat force available down here. If quirky, because remember, Cav like slams into stuff and it gets damaged. So here, I wrecked this, but hurt my own as well. Here I actually made an assault on a town. That was a pretty close odds thing because the town gives a -2 to charging cav. And these charging cav were just light, so all they had was a +1. So, but there were other advantages as well. So anyway, I managed to get the decent die roll there and take the location. It's hard to tell. I think the French are going to win this as a squeaker, but just because of the guards and the cav being still pretty damn effective, whereas the Russians are going to be losing 2 commands here, Siever and Osman Tolstoy's command. And we may also be losing the independence, I'm not sure. Wow, the Grenadiers are opposed too. Wow. Well, we'll see. Because more damage might be happening. But yeah, it just looks to me like the Russians just do not have the fighting power to take everything, to take on the guards at this point, or the cav. These things are still somewhat effective too. It gets quicker and easier as units get destroyed. No big shock there. Whole lot of chits, not a whole lot of anything happening. Barclay, why not? Well, because he failed all his activation rolls. I wanted to activate all this shit and try to wipe out what's there so that I could turn my attention back to the redoubt, which I thought I had secured. Bagration can't do anything. These guys can't do anything. Nothing here. Poniatowski. He managed to catch himself one of the grenadier units and kill it by just having it pinned with zones of control. I mean, by kill it goes over in the route box. And Davu attempted an attack here but failed, and that means all his units are disordered. His entire command is going to leave if indeed the numbers are as they appear there, and he's got a wrecked unit. Just a couple of chits left. And they were kind of clever this time. All the chits are backed the same color. In the last one, they had them back so that you couldn't just mix them up on a table. So like the French units would have a blue backing and the Russians would, or Austrians, would have a backing appropriate to their color. And that meant you need a chit cup. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter for me, but some people sometimes might be playing someplace where they don't have a cup or something. I don't know how likely that is, given the prevalence of chit pull games and such. Now people are liable to keep some kind of container. I mean, this isn't something you're going to bring to a coffee shop or play outside or something. So you probably will have some kind of container you can use. Alrighty. With a couple non-events, Davout was pretty much wrecked and disappeared after that. And Barclay, who, well, no, not a non-event, who launched an attack over here and actually gained some ground, knocking some units out. But he still hasn't finished this up. We've got 2 turns left over here on the track. This is what, they're an hour and 15 minutes each, so this is going to be 6:30. And some Imperial Guard in the permanently eliminated, not just a crappy cav, but a real unit. How'd that get destroyed? Well, it's got a less value on its reduced side. Yeah. Okay, and I don't think there's a chance of knocking the Guard out at this point in the game. There was a point where they looked a little shaky, but then again, I didn't think there was any chance of Davout being knocked out of the game, and he is. This is not Davout. This is part of Eugene's forces. These, however, are all able to be thrown in the pile. So I got room still over here. I used a second slot for the Russians, and it makes me want to do it for the French too. You can push some of these forward. We got, in addition, some Russian grenadiers going in the pit. They're not great, but there's a possibility, because there's so many over here, that could be wrecked, and that would definitely, change the nature of the victory point structure quite a bit, because the Russian grenadier and guards are still worth 10, just like the French ones, even though they're not nearly as effective or useful. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about, really. Okay, new turn. French keeping their orders where they had them. In a sense, actually, no, I moved the artillery over to Poniatowski, because he's over on the wing here. Looks like he's got some capability to attack. In a sense, I might have wanted to, although it's not allowed by the rules specifically, but I might bend them to allow this, to put 2 orders chits on Murat. Now, I can see why it wouldn't make sense to do this, but in a sense, what I'd like to do, perhaps, is to activate most of, if not all, I don't remember how many commands there are, there's 4 or 5, of the cav commands to actually engage, because there isn't a lot left, say, on Poniatowski. And the artillery, when I picked that, that's when I particularly maybe wanted to use the 2 commands for the cav, because I'm obviously dredging the bottom of the barrel when I'm looking at the artillery barrage with as few guns are left. This system seems to really generate a lot of hits on the artillery. I don't remember if the old one was supposed to have artillery be destroyed if they took damage when disrupted, but I was just routing them, which probably isn't appropriate. Maybe I'm doing it wrong this time. But I don't think they go in the recovery box, I think. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Because I can't find it trivially. Anyway, for the Russians, they got an ability to change, but they didn't take it. They threw back onto the Guards Brigade. The reason being, the other thing I want to move, I think I want to pull back, and I should be able to get some of the distance that I want, which is covering this space. I don't think I'm going to get this redoubt back, whereas I might be able to get this one if I send my guards through, and then be in a kind of more defensible position overlooking the rest of the French army, because I think this area is just going to be a mess. It's not going to go well for me. The cav ended up doing very little, just repositioning and reorganization, but they were able to reposition more quickly. They also used some bombardment to take out a couple of them Cossacks, which just gets it ever closer to wrecking this big unit. Big string of activations. Bagration, we can pretty much ignore him, although he is putting this unit out here in position to start maybe doing something here, providing some support to the grenadiers out here. The grenadiers moved forward, took a cannon and chased off some cav. They didn't take this cannon yet. That's Davu's gun, though. It doesn't do anything except serve as a little bit of a roadblock. Artillery fire was also somewhat helpful on that. Junot failed to get an activation die roll. More about Gratian. Davu can't do anything. Ney can't do anything. Poniatowski turning his axis to go after the grenadiers here. I need something to stop him. The guard up here is not healthy. The grenadiers probably aren't going to be able to wreck the guard, but they can take up a position here that the guard really, and if the guard tries to defend that, they probably get knocked out. One thing that I think Junot did was wiped out some, but it may have been Poniatowski, wiped out some Cossacks here with artillery fire, and we got that up here. Wanted to get a charge going here to try to break this so that I open things up for the Cav and just finish off everything back here. But that didn't happen. The Russians are resurgent. Bagration, a couple of actions. I'll now enable them to pretty much destroy. This is now a wrecked unit, the 3rd Cav. It isn't marked as such yet, but essentially it is. It's going to be all off the map except for this unit, which will be in the withdrawn box afterwards. So therefore we've cleared this, and that gave me a chance at the same time to push forward and set up a threat to the guard with my last healthy unit basically of infantry. Well, I still have my grenadiers, and they also got to go, and they've seized at least one of these hexes. I don't know how to record something if I don't like the you must have passed through type of rules, but I'd really not like. I don't think the Russians deserve these points until they've done so. So it's not a problem because it's not a two-way victory point. I would really be unhappy if the French got those victory points after the Russians moved here. Even if this was the end of the game, that's just not believable to me. But as it stands, I don't mind depriving the Russians of them. I don't know why. It's just, it's a matter of notation and some sort of bias in my mind otherwise. Ney didn't do anything. Imperial Guard trying to conserve itself. We want to hold this, and we want to make sure we don't wreck the guard. Yeah, it's not too close to being wrecked, but if we pushed hard at this moment, we might well be losing it. So I'm just trying to recover and get a good position. Unfortunately, I engaged in an artillery duel there that I lost. Bunch of activation hits, well, not that many, but not much action. But the big action, the Cav tried a massive set of charges, and they actually got repulsed in both of their cases by countercharges. This one, very successful Russian countercharge, but it puts the Russian unit in a hellish position. And this one just kind of stopped the French in their tracks. Devastation, Eugene. Then Poniatowski managed to crush another grenadier unit. Meanwhile, his other units are kind of scattered all over the winds, basically. I'll continue with the orders on this unit and let these guys kind of fend for themselves. They're within range of Napoleon, so even if they need an activation, they should be fine. But I'm done for the turn with Poniatowski. Remove the Vuz counters from the chip pool. They're not possible to do anything. I noted that because I have another Eugene activation. Imperial Guard managed to launch an attack, some recovery as well, and solidifying their hold there. They're not going to get knocked off that redoubt easily. And as you know, his artillery managed to clean up the grenadiers here, so he's marching forward to take the other important terrain. Not really aiming to destroy a unit anymore, aiming to solidify our position so that the Russians will have to retreat no matter what. And now we just got the bookkeeping to go. There's more units getting wrecked here, I think. Not this, but quite possibly the Independence here. No, there's a lot of them left. These guys don't count. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot dead and a lot left. So it's possible either way. And I got to worry about the Grenadiers. A whole bunch of them in the pile right now. Figured out where to move my commanders yet. But otherwise, we're up to the 7:15 turn. Let's see. So, Grenadiers are gone. The independents are gone. Both collapsed. Independence was a close run thing. And for the French, I'm not sure how to record this or whether I'm doing it right, but that command is gone. The rest of Murat's Cav is fine. I don't know if you're supposed to deal with Murat's Cav as a monolithic object or break it into the different activation pieces. The rules aren't specific about that. It really doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. There's a lot more points available for the Russians if you break it up. But it doesn't matter in the context of this particular game because I think the Russians have lost. The wrecking of the Grenadiers means that Poniatowski's, are going to be able to retake the breastworks up here or the bastion up there. What's here, we'll see what we can hold on to, whether we can get a withdrawable force so that there'll be any Russian command left for when the Cav come forward. Because one of the factors was the Russians did keep forces in the area. They withdrew from Moscow, but their army wasn't completely gone. What would have happened had the French been able to take Moscow with no real viable force nearby is a hard decision, is a hard thing to kind of unravel in your mind. For me, I think Napoleon would still be in trouble as long as Moscow, as long as St. Petersburg's still around, as long as the Russians weren't going to surrender just from the loss of Moscow. Well, they can build more armies. They've proven that before. But it's hard to tell. Yeah, it could have forced a Russian surrender, and that would be that. So we'll play out the last turn. I'm not sure how aggressive I'm going to be with the Russians. They don't have much left. They have this. They have this Cav here, which can't really get anywhere. And that's about it. Yeah, I started playing this turn. I'll give you a little bit of rundown, but I think I'm calling it here. Poniatowski. First of all, the Russians were unable to get an orders change, so all they've got is the Grenadiers, and they basically can't do anything with them. If there are any on the board, there are not. So they have basically no orders. The French got the initiative, though, and we kept pretty much the same. We moved Poniatowski out so we could have Junot have orders, because Poniatowski had a better chance of getting his orders, and he's spread out. Less forces total that I could throw in. Well, he managed to take out the last Grenadiers up here. And then Bagration, little or nothing he could do. He's just kind of holding this position down here. We've got then 2 Imperial Guard activities, and they managed to seize this hex. I don't think the Russians have anything that can take it back. Conceivably, this force could get initiative and try to drive them out, but it just doesn't look reasonable at this time. So if we were to count points, because I don't think there's anything French that's liable to fall at this point, except maybe this 3 points. I don't think the Russians are going to get any more points here, although this guy could conceivably grab a point, I guess. Or more. Our points come down to, let's see, 3 points for each Russian group that's destroyed other than the Imperial Guard, which is worth 10, and it is indeed the Imperial Guard. And the Russians get 4 per group. We're going to give them the 4 for this. Well, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4 activation groups. That's 16, and that's about it for them. Whereas the French have gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is 30. Plus maybe this 3, 33. I mean, there's just no chance for the Russians to gain back what they have in place. They're not in a position, nor do they have troops that are active that can really break another formation. They don't have anything that can get sufficient points. So really, we could play this out until nightfall, which is the end of this turn, or just call it now. And I would rather not waste the time. What we saw was a remarkably fluid battle. I think if
the Russians hadn't been stuck with only the artillery reserve being active for so long. Basically, Kutuzov couldn't get an activation that swung into different hands. Well, they would have had a significantly greater chance. I've heard some people say that the game is somewhat unbalanced in favor of the French. Maybe very slightly, but I'm not so sure, because once we saw the Grenadiers come in, or the Russian Guard come in, they were able to do quite a bit of damage. Granted, the Russians certainly lost the battle, but if their artillery had gotten into place right away, started firing, but then I had been able to swing over, get that additional, the artillery barrage counter into play each turn, along with some of my actual units, either Bagration or Barclay, well, I would have been able to gain a lot more ground earlier and maybe prevented some of the early losses that were expensive to take back. Because remember, I've taken both of these back with the Russians. In some ways, it almost feels like too fluid a battle. I don't know if this is worth doing a review for. I think so. I'll make a short one. Anyway, I'll send this up, and this one was definitely interesting. And I certainly suggest using the version 2.2 rules rather than any of the earlier versions that went with Triumph and Glory, including the living rules for it. Send it up.